Before I start today, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the volunteers and also the Venerable Swashis at the Chan Meditation Center for their hard work and dedication and commitment to carry on the programs at the Chan Meditation Center, especially during this difficult period of the pandemic. And even though we cannot gather in the center together, and we're still able to learn the Dharma and practice together. So I want to express my gratitude for everyone's work, and of course for all the years of dedication that makes our community and the place of practice possible. I want to express my gratitude. So I want to talk a little bit about this topic of today's topic is cultivating wisdom as a Chan practitioner. I want to thank everyone for being here and giving me this opportunity to talk about, think about, and study with this very big topic. And the more I think about it, the more I realize it's probably not going to, one talk is probably not going to be enough to talk about this. And I will give it a shot today. And when I think about the topic of wisdom, one thing that Master Sheng Yen said when he explained what wisdom is always stuck with me, and I like to share that with you, and I will use that. I would like to elaborate that a little bit here. So Master Sheng Yen said, wisdom is not knowledge, it is not experience, it is an attitude of no self. Right? So wisdom is not knowledge, it's not experience, it's an attitude of no self. And I always keep this in mind, and over the years had tried to understand it as I engage in the practice. And I would like to elaborate, or not to work to share with you what this means a little bit, especially using what Master Sheng Yen taught on the paramita of wisdom in his book on the 6 paramitas, and also Nagarjuna's Prajna Paramita Sastra, that's Dolun. So when we think about knowledge, like what Master Sheng Yen said, what wisdom is not, it brings me to the one of the ways that he categorized prajna. So in the chapter on the prajna of wisdom, Master Sheng Yen talked about many different ways to categorize prajna. And one of the ways he categorized prajna in his discussion is that of between worldly prajna and non-worldly prajna. Like prajna here often is what we call wisdom. And non-worldly prajna here sometimes is translated as world-transcending prajna, as opposed to worldly prajna. And according to Master Sheng Yen, worldly prajna is wisdom applied to the relative world, this world that we live in, that's conditioned, that's constantly changing. And there is the non-worldly prajna of liberation. So now, as a Chan practitioner, what I'd like you to do is to pay attention to any thoughts or feeling arising as you hear these words. The categories of worldly and non-worldly prajna, it's not about uh, trying to say one is better than the other. This conceptual categorization, we have a tendency to think, oh, one is better, the other is not as good, or to start placing judgment on them. We need worldly prajna to operate in the world, and we cultivate non-worldly prajna of liberation as we apply worldly wisdom while living in the relative world. So as a practitioner, the question is, do we know what we are cultivating? Right? If we do not know what we are cultivating, is it possible that we have become self-satisfied with the worldly wisdom that we have come to possess? Right? So, for example, people come to you for advice. People hold you up as a wise person with a lot of wisdom, and you begin to believe that you're in possession of a lot of wisdom that you can give to people, right? Um, and now, this kind of wisdom that one can possess, as there is a I who is a wise person, and some kind of wisdom, that some kind of object, some kind of entity that can be our possession, that can be given to other people. As you can see, that's not in accordance with the uh, true nature of reality, where there is no fixed entity of self or entity like what we call wisdom. And is it possible that we are self-satisfied with being in possession of worldly wisdom and forgetting to cultivate well-transcending prajna, which is the attitude of no self, operating in the world, knowing very clearly that there is not a wise person who is in possession of wisdom, being seen as some kind of entity or a body of knowledge, like we call wisdom. So ultimately, that is what Master Sheng Yen was referring to, that wisdom is not knowledge that can be possessed as an entity by a person. So this is why the conceptual distinction is helpful. Understanding the difference conceptually can help us recognize what we are doing in our practice and ask ourselves. So I'd like to invite you to ask yourself, if you know what you've been doing, what you've been cultivating. And before we get to that, I would like you to watch for the habits of the mind to judge that one is superior to the other, and saying to ourselves, oh, I know I don't want the worldly prajna. It's because it's only worldly. Worldly is not good. Like, I want the world transcending one. So that sounds like that's the one I want. That's the one about liberation. That's the one I want. Like, forget the worldly prajna. I don't want that. Notice this habit of using our existing perspective, habit of discrimination that ranks everything as one being superior to the other, and perhaps having this attitude of um, dismissing one, while perhaps becoming a bit arrogant when one believes that one is in possession of the supposedly superior one. Like, watch for that. And this kind of thinking is an erroneous view anyway. It needs to be very clear in our mind. The idea that there is a self who is in possession of wisdom is not in accordance with wisdom, as I have said already, which is an attitude of no self based on the understanding of the emptiness of self. So remember in the Heart Sutra, there is in this line, there is no wisdom and nothing to attain. No wisdom, no such a thing as wisdom to be attained. Right? So whenever we think there is wisdom to attain, to be in our possession, that makes us a wise person, allowing us to build our identity on it, that is erroneous view. So what makes worldly wisdom worldly is that it is conditioned and applicable and relevant in a particular time and space in the relative world. Nagarjuna in Mahaprajna Paramita Sastra pointed out that what is held up as worldly wisdom, often some recorded in classical text, or it's sort of like taught and shared in a society by the wise ones, people with wisdom. He pointed out that such worldly wisdom are dedicated, a quote, dedicated to the establishment of the state, the preservation of the family, the person, longevity, and pleasure, unquote. So, worldly wisdom is relative in the sense that it is appropriate for people living in a particular social and cultural environment. So, let me share an example to explain this bit. So here, let's talk about one kind of wisdom, worldly wisdom, is for preservation of the family. And in a society that emphasizes stability, it tends to organize family in a hierarchical structure with clearly defined roles. So in these families, right, there will be the father who is the breadwinner, and the one who has all the authority that makes the important decisions. And it's a hierarchical structure in the sense that the mom will be the one looking after the domestic domain, and accepts her husband's authority, basically following his leadership in the family, um, instead of arguing about everything. And children being below both the parents in terms of where they stand in the hierarchy, will obey their parents, like let their parents make decision for them, and not argue, object to what their parents have decided. And this hierarchical structure can be quite stable, right? And it's often seen as the way to organize a family, a good way to organize a family, when especially the priority is to preserve the stability of the family unit. And worldly wisdom prescribed on how to be a good father, a good mother, and a good child um, will follow these roles. Right? Now, this is worldly wisdom because it is agreed upon and practiced by the majority in the society in a particular historical time and place. Right? What Master Sheng Yen referred to as what supposedly is objectives is really the subjective preference of many people, or sometimes especially those who are powerful. So it is relative. It's not absolute. It changes as our society changes. And holding on to, as you can see, holding on to this kind of structure and role definition nowadays, with little job security and rapid technological and social change in the world that we live in, would not really be that wise, right? Would not really be in accordance with wisdom. So increasingly, as many of you might notice, there are families where the mom is the key breadwinner, because she has a well-paying job, or the kind of work that she had been trained for has become valued in our society. And the dad, because of job loss, because of the skill that he held has been replaced by automation, for various reasons. Um, Instead of working outside the home, maybe actually decide that it makes more sense for him to stay home with children, especially for family with young children. And children may find themselves playing an important role in helping with the family's decision making. So instead of just being the ones who will obey and let the parents make all the decision as authority figures, oftentimes perhaps because of their greater familiarity with new technology or maybe the new ways of doing things. I've heard many people talking about having to learn from their teenage children when they suddenly have to do everything online. Right? So they are one with more knowledge in that domain. Right? So you can see that the particular way of organizing ourselves to live together as a family, which was held up as a wise way of going about it, may no longer be appropriate in a very different social condition. And so you can see how to preserve our family wisely looks quite different nowadays. Right? There would be different advice that would be appropriate for living together as a family harmoniously nowadays than, well, many decades ago. In fact, a sociological research published a few years ago find exactly that. Find that families where parents were more flexible with gender roles, meaning families where the husband, after losing his job, were able to let the wife be the breadwinner, and because her job's better paid, and willing to pick up more housework and childcare. In families like that, they were much more likely to be able to weather the massive layoff and instability caused by the financial crisis, and were able to stay together as a family, and also um, everyone in the family experience high level of satisfaction in their family life. So you can see that worldly wisdom on how to be a good father or husband and a good mother, wife changes as the society changes. Now, this is in the domain of worldly wisdom, right, which we do need to cultivate and understand to live in our family and, of course, in a society um, to harmoniously and be an engaged, productive member of the society, like who can contribute to the welfare of our society. World transcending wisdom will have to do with what Master Sheng Yen was talking about, this practice of cultivating this attitude of no self while living in the world in relationship with others. So the cultivation of well-transcending wisdom does not it's not about us going away from the world, going to live in the mountains away from society, to in isolation cultivate some kind of world-transcending wisdom. Rather, it is done with this attitude of no self as we live in relationship with others. And while we cultivate this clear awareness of the emerging present moment situation, as we interact with each other, we can see clearly what is appropriate in the present moment situation, right? So again, we stay with the example of living harmoniously in a family. So cultivating this clear awareness, we will notice that in certain situation, we are, it is our responsibility to, and we are expected to carry out the role of an authority figure. Right? So, for example, it would be if you're a parent, it might be a situation where your children are really looking to you for guidance, on trying to figure out whether something is right or wrong, right? So, in the moment you're being called upon to be the parent who to provide guidance, or maybe the parent who can reassure them that you will protect them, right? Whereas in other situations, we are really sharing the moment as fellow human beings, right? So it's not like you're always the parent, and they're the kid, and treating them as such. It's like you're just hanging out together as a family, perhaps enjoying the food we make together, or maybe enjoying the food someone prepare together as a family, or playing a game together, right? So it is not that we always act as an authority figure, right? As you can, we probably will notice if we allow ourselves to notice that sometimes the kids would know more about something, perhaps because they've been doing a research project on it, and we most certainly can learn from them, right? So they can be the teacher in that moment for us. And it is also not that we always be their friend, because sometimes we are still the someone that they do look up to and rely on for guidance. So in those moments, if we refuse to be the adult in the room, when they need someone to give them guidance, we're not fulfilling our responsibility either. Yeah. So when we practice with this clear awareness that we cultivate from the meditative practice, every moment we know, we're more likely to know what is appropriate in the present moment. Present moment is constantly shifting, and we are more likely to be able to do that if we also do not hold on to the erroneous view that what we already know, like we hold up as some kind of worldly wisdom, is absolute, like, and is applicable all the time. Always do certain thing, always be a certain way to be wise, to be the wise one. Right? So let me tell you what to do. That kind of that will not be in accordance with the wisdom that's cultivated in the paramita of wisdom. So as a Chan practitioner, we practice seeing clearly that any worldly wisdom is relative, right? So that we would not attach to any of it as absolute truth and give rise to vexations and cause others suffering because of our attachment. Attachment coming from the ignorance that such worldly wisdom is relative. And it's not easy, especially when we are very invested in certain truth or wisdom that's passed down to us. We have a tendency to identify with them strongly and may feel offended uh, and give rise to aversion or hatred when we are not recognized um, as such by others. Okay? So we need to watch for this kind of habitual tendencies. Now, it does not mean that we do not respect what is held up and followed in a particular sociocultural setting. Okay, so that what understanding that worldly wisdom is relative does not mean that we go in a setting and say, oh, it's relative anyway. It's not truth. So we disrespect it. Right? That would be that would not be the right attitude. As Master Sheng Yen often said, when we interact with others, we put ourselves in their shoes to understand where they're coming from. Or I'm a sociologist. In sociology, we also talk about when we engage with people who practice a quite different culture, like in which certain way is held up as wisdom. Right? We refrain from being ethnocentric, judging others' culture based on our own way of doing things, our culture, and instead trying to understand other people's culture, their way of doing things, their wisdom in their own terms. And we can understand why people believe certain practice or social arrangement as being wise. And in this way, we can better work with these individuals and harmonize with them. Now, it does not mean that we put these practices up on the pedestal as wisdom with a capital W. And oh, I find some, really amazing wisdom somewhere. So again, watch for this notion that there is a wisdom being fixed entity that is applicable everywhere. Um, it's worldly wisdom, and if we do that, we may make the mistake of thinking that, oh, it can be transported from that particular social and cultural environment for which it was appropriate, like, and helpful for people to provide guidance for people's life, and make the mistake of thinking that it can be transported to a completely different social and cultural environment, and perhaps impose it on everyone here, where people don't understand it, do not see it as appropriate for them, most certainly do not see it as wisdom. And so doing so would be ignorant of the fact that worldly wisdom is relative and it changes with time and space. And also when we act this way, right, not in accordance with wisdom, we are likely to be causing suffering to others, and we ourselves will suffer because we thought we are bringing this wonderful wisdom and people don't accept it. We get upset and get very angry and resentful, and in the process can cause a lot of conflict and grief, misunderstanding, and cause suffering for others. And that is not in accordance with wisdom and compassion. So here we've been talking about the attitude of no self. According to Nagarjuna, he talked about world-transcending wisdom being that which reflects genuine reality. What's genuine reality? Genuine reality is that there is no permanently inherently existing self. Like, the self exists in this emerging present moment as how the way, in a way that it's manifested, but there isn't an independently permanently existing entity that's self, that's me, and wisdom that I possess, that I can carry with me everywhere, that's always appropriate. So remembering that is part of the cultivation of the attitude of no self, and this attitude, living this way, reflects genuine reality, because the reality is that there is no fixed entity, be it self or what we call wisdom. So also when Master Sheng Yen said that wisdom is not knowledge, he meant that the possession of knowledge by itself is not what wisdom is. Now, it does not mean that we do not need knowledge. In fact, knowledge is very useful for helping us to engage in our world with wisdom. To cultivate wisdom involves learning new things, to have to develop knowledge about the world, so that we can function in it. We can understand why people do certain things and what will be a helpful way to organize ourselves, like to carry out task, to fulfill our shared goals, all these require knowledge, right? And in fact, it reminds me of the third great vow that we recite when we recite the four great vows, to vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. And oftentimes we think that it is just to only learn the Dharma teachings, but it goes farther than that. It includes all learning about all kinds of knowledge and skills that we may need to fulfill our bodhisattva vows of benefiting all sentient beings. Right? That may include knowledge about how to manage people, how to organize ourselves, um, maybe some knowledge about uh, science nowadays, especially involving public health with the pandemic, um, understanding. Uh, uh, for example, people wanting some guidance about how to be safe, uh, navigating our world with this coronavirus. So some scientific knowledge will be helpful, and we may not be experts, but some understanding would be helpful for us to be an engaged member of our society, allowing us to contribute in a constructive way. And over the years, as I travel with Master Sheng Yen, I observe him like how he is a sponge for knowledge. When I share what I read or research for a particular organization or society, when I travel with him as his translator, for example, I noticed that he would just remember all of it and make use of it when the appropriate moment came up. So, because of his vow is um, to learn everything he needs in order for him to benefit sentient beings. So in those moments when he find that sharing that knowledge would benefit sentient beings, that's when he brought up those knowledge. He wasn't walking around talking about how he to show off what he knows. And as some of you might know people like that who acquire a lot of knowledge as a way to show off how knowledgeable they are. That's not what we're talking about here, but really is a way, part of our vow to benefit sentient beings. It takes self-discipline and wisdom to make good use of knowledge. Many of you may know very intelligent and knowledgeable people who lack knowledge, who lack wisdom. Right? So, for instance, there one reason they lack wisdom is that they don't even make use of the knowledge that they have. Right? So, for example, there are a lot of apparently there are a lot of medical doctors who may have very detailed knowledge about what causes health problems, right? But they don't apply their knowledge in their own life and still follow a rather unhealthy lifestyle, such as eating junk food and really not having, not exercising, or even, or like they smoke. And years ago, I have heard a piece of study that um, that described this situation, that a lot of medical doctors here in the United States, that they lead a rather unhealthy lifestyle. So that would be the one example of having knowledge and not being very wise about one's health, precisely because we don't even apply the knowledge we have. Now, when we think about applying knowledge, knowledge itself is neutral. the way we apply it can cause harm or benefit people. So, as Chan practitioners, we need to reflect on whether we are applying our knowledge to benefit others or not. Or is the way we apply our knowledge causing harm to others, causing suffering in ourselves and others? Right? So I will stay with the example of medical doctors to elaborate this. Medical doctors, especially have a lot of, especially those who have a lot of expertise in treating patients to stay alive, may use their knowledge to put a dying patient through more surgeries, more procedures by applying their knowledge of what is possible, what can still be done to keep this patient alive for maybe a few more days, a few more weeks. Okay? And they are applying their knowledge. However, very often, without reflecting on how this will bring suffering for the patients and their family, it is not a use of knowledge that is wisdom. Very often, just doing more surgery, doing more procedure did not really cause the quality of life to deteriorate rapidly for these patients in their final days. And maybe this patient ended up being connected to tubes in the ICU and away from their family, not being able to interact with them. That may not be what they want. And so the doctors imposing on these kind of procedures, they're not necessarily applying the knowledge really to help alleviate suffering for the patients. There are doctors. I read the book by this doctor I find very inspiring, who used medical knowledge to help patients and their family navigate the final days and weeks of the dying patient's life. Some of you may have heard of this book, which I recommend it if you want to learn more about how to navigate dying. The author of this book being mortal, he talked about how he used his medical knowledge to demystify the process of death. For example, he provided a very detailed explanation of the physiological phenomenon that we may observe in a dying person. The sound it will make, and it will look like this person is choking, but it's not. That's just some kind of reflexes. And it may look like this person's in a lot of pain, but it's not. And so explaining this way by using his knowledge really actually help alleviate the anxiety of someone who will be facing death, and also the anxiety of the family members as they observe their loved one going through that, and understanding that, oh, okay, that's that she's not in in pain, even it look like it is. She's not choking. It's not that she's unable to breathe. It is, she's fine, right? So making use of our knowledge in this way um, to help those who are facing death to be a little bit more at ease with what's to come for them, and also for the family to know better how to care for the dying. So in applying for knowledge this way is to bring benefits to others, to help them suffer less. And so the author, for example, talked about how he made use of his knowledge to help his father navigate the decision-making process in the face of a high-risk surgery. Right? So this will be the way of applying our knowledge. We do need to have the knowledge, but applying in a way that is beneficial to others, to alleviate the suffering, and to benefit others, perhaps even at the expense of one's interest, right? So, for example, thinking about medical doctors who is paid for service. So, a doctor certainly make more money by recommending more surgery, more procedures, but by prioritizing the welfare of the dying patients and their family, and to bring benefits for them, right? Then one is engaging in applying for this knowledge to benefit others in a way that where one may that may be at one's own expense. And the result may save many families unnecessary suffering, and help them enjoy some quality time in their final days with the dying. So it will be making good use of one's knowledge, and it's a form of a worldly wisdom. Okay? Now, while one is, for example, if you're a doctor, it can be other kind of professional, applying your knowledge to benefit others as a form of a worldly wisdom. We can also cultivate world-transcending wisdom, which is this attitude of no self, while we apply our knowledge to the relative world. So in the book on the sixth paramita, Master Sheng Yen talked about this. Right? Talked about how we cultivate this attitude of no self is to, without imposing one's preferences, one applies common sense, experience, and skill in dealing with people's problems. So again, staying with this example of medical professional, so I hope you can apply it to your own domain. One may have all the medical knowledge and have a clear idea of what's the best thing to do in this situation, right? That's worldly wisdom. But we cultivate this attitude of no self as we work with the patient, the dying patient, and her family. Again, with this clear awareness of where they are, what they are ready to receive, where they are coming from, their own preferences and background and worldview. We share the information that is useful for them in this moment, that's appropriate for them. And that is the attitude of no self. It's not about what I think they should do and insisting that this is the best way to do this because I have got this all figured out for you. Just do this. And but if that's not what they are ready to do, they are being forced to do what you think is the wise thing, it's causing them incredible suffering, then that is we're not cultivating the attitude of no self. There is a lot of our self in it. So understanding fully, this is from understanding fully that what we believe and see is good for them may not be how they see it. Like their causes and conditions in the present moment is such that they are not seeing that as the beneficial way to go forward. So, and understanding clearly that what we share with them, what we say, is only part of their causes and conditions that shape their view in action. And so when we understand this, we also can respect what they decide to do. So this is the cultivation of this attitude of no self as we work with our worldly knowledge of others. And we've been talking about professional knowledge. I noticed that I am running out of time here. So I think I'm probably going to have my April talk to be on the part 2 of this topic instead of rushing through this last part of my talk today. So I want to thank you for your attention, and I hope you can see that worldly and world-transcending wisdom are not in opposition with each other. We need to cultivate, develop knowledge about the world and apply these knowledge with wisdom. Wisdom being prioritizing how we can make use of these knowledge to benefit others. Right? And then we can and help them reduce their suffering and not cause more suffering for ourselves and others. So when we do that, we are cultivating worldly wisdom. And while we are cultivating worldly wisdom, we can also cultivate world-transcending wisdom by remembering to cultivate this attitude of no self. So I want to thank you for being here and give me an opportunity to share this with you. And I hope to share this, the second part of my talk in 3 weeks. And I hope you will also make use of this in your own life. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. We have about 2 minutes. Should we open this 2 minutes for people if they have dying questions to ask you? If anybody has questions, you can unmute yourself and just say your question.
Okay, I see Miranda. Hello again. Yes.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? For some reason, the video is not coming on.
I don't know. I can't
Okay.
hear anything. I don't know what's supposed to be happening. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me try give this another try.
Miranda, you're
Hello, what's this? Can you hear me now? Can anybody hear me now?
Yes,
Oh,
We can
okay.
hear you, but I think Dr. Rebecca Lee, she couldn't hear anybody here.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Dr. Lee, can you
Um,
hear me? Some people can hear me, some people can't hear me.
Can you hear, Dr. Lee, can you hear Miranda? I don't think she can.
I
Miranda,
can't
can
hear anything.
Miranda, can you type
so
your
I don't know what's going
question?
on, actually. It's complete silence on my end.
Can you hear? Can you hear me, Dr. Lee?
I think she still cannot hear any one of us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think there's some like audio settings that's not set up correctly on Lee's end.
I assume you can hear me, but I can't hear anything. So let me see. Oh, you know what? Okay. So I think I'm beginning to hear sound, so maybe I didn't set up my computer. Okay. Can someone say something?
Yes. Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm
good,
so
good.
sorry.
So you can hear us, right?
Now, yes, yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, Miranda, please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can even hear you?
Yes, I apologize. I did not click the right option on my audio. So
No worries. We're all still learning about technical operations here. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Lee. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to listen to you again. And you know, every lecture I attend, I mean, every presentation is a new presentation for me. So I have a question about the worldly wisdom. How we apply wisdom, like say to help somebody. In your example about say, what we think is right for somebody, because of their causes and conditions, they're not ready to hear us. But as a result, I'm causing suffering to that person, providing this sort of quote unquote advice, or could see clearly what's good for you. Why can't you see clearly what's good for you? And so my question is there a way to prevent ourselves from getting into that trap of, hey, I tell you, this is really good for you. And yet they find that it's almost like an imposing, like I'm imposing on their decision, I'm imposing on their risk, on their space. So that means I'm not respecting what their choices are. So is there a way to prevent that from happening? Or it's more like, say, we have to let it happen, and it's part of our practice, is part of our learning experience of learning how to be wise, how to have wisdom. So how would you suggest that? How would you suggest that we go about that? Thank you.
Thank you, Miranda. That's a really great question. I noticed that you have the same question every time. You want to prevent it from happening. And this is why we engage in the cultivation of clear awareness through our meditative practice, or whether it's sitting meditation, or we use the method of reciting the Buddha's name, or any practice that help you settle your mind so that you are able to be in the present moment, and you can hear and feel what is going on clearly. So it may sound like a cliche, oh, just be a better listener. It is not only about being a better listener. It is about being fully here, hearing what is said, hearing what is not said, also feeling, empathizing, feeling with the people you are with. When we can be fully with them, then you're not the person who is helping them, giving them wisdom. It's like, I have all this wisdom, and how I'm giving it to you. And this idea is what keep us from being completely there in the situation with the people. When we see that, oh, I'm part of this present moment and I happen to know something, I will share with you. And then it is a very different relationship, different attitude. It's that you're able to see that, oh, they are, this is not something that they are ready to receive, or to put it the other way, this is a bit too shocking for them. Then does not mean what you say is not accurate, but it is not appropriate in this moment. It's then it will become an obstacle for them. But like, you may think that like maybe just like a giving, maybe then you can work with them. They're not ready to hear this yet. Maybe a little bit milder version of this, or a slower progression of a certain plan, for example. Now that's okay, I can do that. So how do you know how to work with someone? Is by being fully there and seeing, feeling where someone is in the present moment, instead of thinking how they should feel. So that's our habit of thinking that they should feel, or like, I already know this. You should already know this. You should already feel this. What's wrong with you? Why can't you just be that? And when we have all these attitude and thoughts in our mind, we simply cannot see and feel and hear what is going on right here, right now. So I guess to answer your question, how you can quote unquote prevent that is by engaging in the practice in our life right now to cultivate this clear awareness, because this stability of mind, clarity of mind is not something that you can just have, or you can just cultivate right away. It's not like, well, today I decide I'm going to have a clear mind. I'm going to press that button on the vending machine. This is what I'm going to get today. Right? Because we have very entrenched habits that obscure our mind. So to really take seriously the practice in both formal meditative periods that we have in our life, and also in our daily life, moment after moment, to cultivate this clear awareness, is what will be helpful in those moments when it will be really helpful if we can be fully there to support someone in those very, very difficult moments.
Great.
I hope
Thank
this
you.
is useful. Mm-hmm.
It's great. It's great because it's while you're saying, I could see where I had violated. So it's a great reminder, and I will just keep practicing. So thank you. I'm sorry that I put this up, and I think obviously it's an obstacle for me. Just hearing it again and again will help me for sure, and hopefully help others too.
Well, no need to apologize. Actually, this is a very common question. So thank you for asking that so that everyone will have an opportunity to hear that. Thank you. Thank you.
Much